Hey, welcome back to JG3 Reviews. My name is James, and here I like to explore the world of fountain pens, ink, and paper. And I said in my last video about some updates that are coming in 2026 that one of the things I'm going to do in the new year is to go back to pens that I bought years ago and kind of give you an updated look at those pens. What have I learned about them? What has worked and what has failed and all that kind of stuff. Well, today I'm actually going to get a jump on that because of an experience I had over the weekend with one of those older pens that reminded me of some things about this pen, and one thing that I would actually like to learn how to handle better whenever letting someone use my fountain pen. And if you're still looking for a gift for somebody you'd like to penable or a fountain pen user, you'd like to get them something very practical, this video just might be for you as well. So while this plays, hit the like or subscribe button, and then we're going to dive right in. All right, so what pen am I talking about? It is the Platinum Prefounte, or Prefounte, in case you like to buy pens just before going to the water cooler. This pen has been out for a while. I've owned the red and green ones since 2019. I've owned this one since 2021. So several years of experience with these pens, and none of these three pens have ever in any way let me down. So let me just get that out here at the beginning. Incredibly reliable pens. Now, before I go into the experience this weekend that inspired me to do this particular video, let me tell you about these pens and go over some things that I like. And I don't really have much that I don't like, but I can tell you a couple of things that you would want to consider before you buy this pen, all right? So first, I love the colors. The red is that same platinum red you see in the Curados, but it is really a good-looking red color. If you like a red pen, this is a nice color. All of them are transparent pens or translucent. You can decide which one exactly it is. Some of you like to argue about that. Do it in the comments all you want. But they come in these colors, and it is red and the same green again as what you see in the Curados. And then this is, I believe, the graphite blue. There are two blues. There's graphite blue and I think deep sea blue. This is one of those. I can't exactly remember. Actually, now I do remember. I just stopped and looked it up on Jet Pens at my old order from 2021. And yes, this is the Night Sea, not Deep Sea, but Night Sea blue. Really, really nice color. They also have a vermilion orange, close enough to my high school colors. I really should own one of those, but you know, I had to stop somewhere, didn't I? Show a little bit of restraint. These pens are available in fine and medium, and that might be one of the things that some people would find a niggle with. They actually have at Platinum a 0.2 Preppy, and it kind of seems like you ought to be able to get this in that extra fine nib, but you can't. So what you could do, because this is one of the strengths of the pen, is just get the 0.2 millimeter Preppy and swap that nib unit right over to the Prefounte, and there you go. You got yourself a little bit nicer pen, and that's why I think this pen exists. So the Preppy, as you may know, has an almost cult following in the fountain pen world because for just about $5, give or take $1, depending on where you find them, you can have a very well writing fountain pen, reliable as the day is long, and one with what they call a slip and seal mechanism. Now that sounds, I know, like marketing gibberish, but the truth is, it works. This is one of the strengths that I love about these two pens, along with, by the way, the Plaisir, which we'll get to in just a second. It's that it actually works. You can leave these pens inked up in a drawer for months at a time while you're writing with the other ones. Come back to this one, and it will write like you inked it up this afternoon. It's impressive. It's not hype. It just works over and over again. This pen, in fact, I let for 6 months, I think it was, 4, 5, 6 months in storage, kept meaning to go back and get it, and then time just got away from me while I was doing other pens and other reviews. Pulled this pen out yesterday after writing with this one over the weekend, and you know what? Wrote first thing like it had never even been in storage. In fact, this is the writing sample. I pulled it out, I pulled this piece of paper over and wrote. No issue whatsoever, just an excellent, excellent mechanism for keeping your pen from drying out. If dry out is an issue for you, get a Platinum. It doesn't even matter which one of these you get. My experience is they all work. So that's a strength. Again, a niggle would be you probably ought to be able to get this zero point 0.2 across the line of all 3 pins, but you can't. But you can get extra nib units in Preppies. Some people don't want a Preppy because, it's got all the marking and the writing and all of that. And older models didn't even just have the barcode. They had a whole other label here that looked like, a nutrition label on a can of sardines. And so some people really didn't like the Preppy for that reason. It's great for an everyday pen, great office pen, great loaner pen to people that maybe just want to try out a fountain pen, but you don't want to give them something that might end up breaking your heart when the nib is bent and you get it back, right? Great pens for that, but not everybody likes all the writing all over them. And after a while, I've had some where the stress of using this clip too much in a case or whatever caused a crack on the finial. So that's the reason some people are looking for an upgrade to a Preppy. Now, the ultimate upgrade is that Plaisir because it is an aluminum pen. It doesn't look or feel like it. It's so light, and the finish is so slick that you actually think it's some kind of plastic sometimes, or I do, but it's actually aluminum. The finish holds up really well, and it uses the same swappable nib units as these. In fact, you could make this like, your fanciest highlighter if you wanted to, because you can also get a highlighter tip for these pens. But anyway, coming back to the Prefounte, I like the colors. I think they look good. It makes it a pen that is appropriate to lots of situations. It can be the cheap office pen. They're $11. It's not the worst thing in the world. Refill it a few times and you've broken even compared to a gel pen. You have the flexibility of using whatever inks you want in it because you can put a converter in it. In fact, I think this has the proprietary, yes, platinum converter. You can get those. They're not too terribly expensive. They won't come with the pen. That's a niggle for me, but, is what it is. Anyway, you can do that and use whatever inks you want. You can refill with a syringe the cartridges that are in the pens. You got options. But that's not the number one reason I like this pen. I guess number one would be the dry out issue. That slip and seal thing is awesome, works well. So let me tell you another story about that. This pen I left since last Christmas, I think. I didn't even realize I'd done it. It's terrible to do. You should never do that with your fountain pen. But you know what happened with this one too? Here again, I got the pen out. I wrote with the pen. You see just a little bit of almost dry out. And by the time I got to the L, the pen was writing excellently without issue. I went on to use this pen at a workshop and training over the weekend, and it was fantastic. It's just such a great writer. So let me just show you right quick here. This pen just writes so smoothly. So again, Platinum Prefounte, right? I'm just going to abbreviate that for a second. But their medium nib has no right to be this good. I mean, it just is so awesome. This is when I say this is a favorite medium nib, I'm talking across all the lines. Steel, gold, Japanese, German, Chinese, American, I don't care who made it. This is in my top 5, 3, 2 medium nibs of all time, and it's been consistent across these Prefounte pens. My Plaisir actually came with a fine, but I have a medium sacrificed from a Preppy in it, and they all just write excellently. And just to show you what I'm talking about, just look at that. It just writes so nicely, and it's a nice thick line. It's not overly wet, as you can see, but it's not dry either. Just works so well. I love this nib. If you're into fine, you got that. If you're into extra fine, you can make that happen, as I said. But even if you generally don't like a medium, I would encourage you to try one of these. Whether it's in this or the Preppy, it doesn't even matter. But try their medium nib. Absolutely, to me, worth the pen to write with these medium nibs. And in fact, I will recommend this particular medium nib over the one that's in the Procyon, a pen that I also really, really like. Also, by the way, very handy at workshops because the cap twists off so quickly. But its medium nib is not even, isn't as good as the one they put in the Preffys. Don't know why that is, but that's my experience. These just write awesomely well. And as I said, you don't get all that writing. You simply get the Prefounte there. You get what size the nib is that came with it. Obviously, I swap these around sometimes, and made in Japan. I mean, that's it. Those are all the markings on the pen. Another upgrade you get, springy steel clip. It's not spring loaded, but the metal is pretty springy, and I find that better than that plastic one. I've had no cracking on any of these pens, as you can see. They all just work really well. This one's empty. Let me show you how this works. When you get one, the grip section is clear. I like that. People new to fountain pens sometimes worry when they see, as you can see here, all that ink in there. Totally normal, just the way the pen works. It's capillary action in action. But I like that. I like to be able to see that. Helps me remember before I even write. Now, what color ink did I put in this pen? One of the things that some people don't like is that they do use proprietary platinum cartridges, but I do like their blue-black ink. That doesn't really bother me, and you can, again, refill them. It does come, whoops, I got parts falling around over here. They do have a little BB inside that cartridge to keep the ink agitated and all that kind of stuff. I know sometimes it's not the ink that gets agitated. Some of you guys get agitated by these things, and it does rattle sometimes, especially when it's empty like this or even just low on ink. But it also means you can make sure that the ink is actually down at the working end of the cartridge and not, just kind of stuck up here, as can happen because of air bubbles and things like that. But how are the pens held up? As I said, no issues with any of these three. In fact, not with this Preppy either, which I've had almost as long, probably about 4.5, 5 years, and no issues either with that Plaisir. I said I would bring that one back up. It uses, again, all the same sections, so all the nib swapping is available there. I think this is a sleeper in the fountain pen world. Uh, People know about it, and a lot of people really love it, but it seems like when this pen and the Metropolitan kind of first started going head to head, that this one kind of got forgotten and the Metropolitan got all the love. But actually, I like this pen better most of the time. I would like a little less ornate band right here, to be honest. But other than that, this pen, fantastic. Hold up just a second. I almost forgot to share my anecdote from this weekend. So what happened was I was at a training, and a few of us were in a conversation sharing information about a future ministry project and things like that that one of us has going on. And somebody asked to be able to write down some information, and I just handed my pen right over like I would normally do. But we were busy, and the conversation was going, and I could see the person was struggling a little bit with how to write with the pen. I couldn't interrupt, but I wanted to help them out. I think the main problem was that really they were juggling a few things with their hands. They were having to write on like a ceramic platter, and you know how bumpy those surfaces can be? I think that was really the main problem with the writing experience. But I couldn't interrupt and give them a quick pointer on how to use this particular fountain pen, and it got me to thinking, what do you say? Share this in the comments below. What do you say to somebody when you hand them a fountain pen and you don't know whether they use them all the time or have never used one or what, and you want to make the experience of writing a little bit easier for them? Do you give them pointers? Do you have a half a second instruction on how to write with the pen? I mean, they're not nearly as complicated or as finicky as people think, but, there is a little bit of knowledge that can be helpful in a moment like that. What do you tell them? I didn't say anything. I wasn't thinking about it, and then I couldn't interrupt to give them a hand. And I felt bad because I think it was a bit of an awkward moment for them, and that was really on me. So then when they handed me my pen back, they said, "You, sir, have a fancy pen." Now, I don't think of this as a fancy pen, but I get what they're saying because that's how a lot of people perceive the pen, as either fancy or finicky or persnickety. I don't want to be any of those things, and I don't want to be somebody that uses a fountain pen or the way that you have to use it as some sort of a gatekeeping device. I think that's obnoxious, and I don't want to be in on that. So, do you have pointers on how to helpfully introduce somebody to a fountain pen, or just one that you have that might be a little different than what they're used to using? How do you communicate that in a way that's more considerate of the person who might not be familiar? I'd like to know that, learn from you how you handle that. So, since 2019, that's 6 years, can I still recommend the pen? I think, I give it a glowing recommendation. It's just fantastic. But what has been your experience? Which of these three do you actually prefer to use? Is it the Preppy, the Prefounte, or the Plaisir? And if buying one of the Prefountes, what color do you pick? Red, blue, green, orange, dark blue? What do you like? And what nib would you choose? Share that in the comments below and share your long-term experience with a Prefounte if you've had one, or a Preppy or a Plaisir, any of these 3 pens, because I'd like to get your feedback as well now that you've had it for a while. And if you'd like a more in-depth review, maybe this pen is new to you, I will share that link right here. In the meantime, God bless you. Have a wonderful week and a wonderful holiday. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and a good New Year to all of you.